Hello everybody and welcome to Pravus Gaming and more Hearts of Iron 4, but this time we are playing with the Kaiserreich mod pack, and I am extremely excited to be bringing this to the channel today. For those of you who do not know, the Kaiserreich mod pack is an alternate history mod that asks the question, what would have happened if the Germans had won World War I? Turns out, the economic and political situation of the world will be very, very different, and this mod is incredibly in-depth. Not only does it provide a lot of customized lore that's really well thought out, trying to think through how the world would be different, but it also includes a lot of custom national focuses, so you can play a bunch of different nations and have a great time. The political situation is completely different. There's new mechanics such as stability. It's very, very interesting. It is one of the best mods that I've ever seen, not just for Hearts of Iron 4, but across any game I've ever played. And I know that sounds like really high praise for a mod that is still in development, but my god, it is really, really well done. There are a lot of different nations you can play as, and each of these do have some pretty cool customized starts based on the political situation following World War I. Obviously, we still have the German Empire, the Kaiser, and we will be playing as them today, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We have the Commune of France, the Union of Britain, the Dominion of Canada, the Russian Republic. The United States might seem pretty similar with Herbert Hoover as the president at this time, but it's about to undergo a massive civil war, Empire of Japan, and so on. Almost everything is customized and unique in this mod pack. It is so well thought out, I love it. But we will be playing as the German Empire. Why? Well, if we are going to be introducing the Kaiserreich mod pack into this channel, then what better way to start than playing as the Kaiser? So that's what we're going to do. They are a pretty strong nation at the beginning of the game. There's a lot of customized lore around them. Should be a pretty good way to get our feet wet and experience this mod pack, but they are going to have a bit of trouble and political instability in the near future. This is not going to be a cakewalk. We'll have to try and navigate around that the best we can. To start off, they have the victors of the Weltkrieg, the World War. And that is going to be, as far as I can tell, a permanent penalty to all doctrine research time in the German Empire. Huge penalty, which will put them at a massive disadvantage for all combat throughout the game. I don't know if there's a way to get rid of this. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't, but I haven't found it thus far in my test games. We also have quenched militarism, which is going to reduce their recruitable population quite a bit, and they are the leader of their own faction, Mitteleuropa, which we will experience in just a little bit. Customized national focuses and so on, like I said, but let's go ahead and take a look at the world map. So to start us off, you can see here that the ideologies are a little bit different. We are an authoritarian democratic nation at the beginning of the game, but there are a lot of different political parties that are vying for control. In fact, the ideology mechanics have been kind of done away with. It's not so simple as democracy versus communism versus fascism as it is in the base Hearts of Iron game. It's a little bit more complicated, and you will see different parties take control throughout the course of the game. Pretty cool to watch. Now, the German Empire starts off pretty strong. They won World War I after all. They are a colonial power, giving them a lot of different resources, and they are the leader of their own faction, Mitteleuropa, which basically includes the German Empire, Morocco, and then pretty much all of Eastern Europe, which is going to be pretty interesting for us. But the Russian Republic is pretty strong. They could go several different directions. In fact, the Russian Republic is one of the best nations to play in this game, in my personal opinion. They could form the Soviet Union. They could try to reform the Russian Empire and crown a new Tsar. Lots of cool stuff. And because there's no historical focus in this game, I have no idea which direction the Russians are going to go. They could be a great ally or a huge threat in this game. We're not sure yet. The political situation in France and Britain is a little bit different because they lost World War I, which of course kind of ruined their economies and gave way to political upheaval. They are now both syndicalist nations. Syndicalism is an interesting economic ideology. It's kind of a variant of socialism and communism, but whereas capitalism believes that private individuals can own the means of production, and communism believes that the state should own the means of production, or rather the people should, but the state is kind of acting on their behalf as their voice. Syndicalism believes that the workers should own and organize the means of production themselves. So a factory is owned and operated and organized by the workers itself, not a private individual, and they all have to cooperate with each other. The syndicates have to cooperate in order to form the bulk economy of the nation. France fell to syndicalism, and they are going to be our primary enemy in the game, the Commune of France. Britain also succumbed to syndicalism, and the King Emperor had to flee from the British Isles to Canada, which is where we have the Dominion of Canada. He will have ambitions to retake the British Isles with the help of the Entente, if we can. And the French, who refused to succumb to syndicalism, had to flee to the colonies in Africa, and that's where you have the French Republic. The United States may seem pretty similar right now. They are primarily led by the Republicans and the Democrats, but relatively soon we are going to see Herbert Hoover kind of mess things up, and they will descend into the Second American Civil War, which is going to be very, very interesting to see how that turns out. That can shape the course of the game as well. Lots of different changes. It is going to be really fun to see what happens in this, but let's go ahead and get started as the German Empire and see how well we can navigate through all the various events. And I'll go ahead and say right now, okay, before we get started, if you are coming into this expecting me to min-max and show some great strategy, you're probably going to be disappointed because I have not experienced a ton of the Kaiserreich mod pack. I do not know all of the events, and because it's not following a historical path, I really can't make a ton of predictions as to what is going to happen. So this series is going to be less of a strategy optimization, try to take over the world, blah, 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 kind of a thing, and more of let's experience some alternate history, experience the lore, take it a little slower, and just have a lot of fun in this weird alternate universe that we live in today. Alright, so it's going to be a little slower, but I think it's going to be quite fun, really engaging. I've had a great time so far. Alright, so Kaiserreich Alpha 0.5.3 is where we are at right now. Let's go ahead and just kind of move on. I'll show you some of the changes that have been added into the game, the ones that are going to be very critical myself. News events, I'm going to only be informed about... Well, do I want to know everything, or do I want to know about just some major events for now? I'm probably not going to read everything, but let's go ahead and have the option. That'll be fine. Alright, so we are the German Empire, which means we are the leader of Mitteleuropa. Let's go ahead and click on factions. You can see this is Mitteleuropa right here. Perfect, so we have Morocco, Eastern Europe. We might be able to add some new nations into this later, I'm not too sure. We own some land down here as well in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, which will give us access to a lot of really useful resources. And let's see, the Entente still exists, though it is pretty much led by the Free French, Australia, and the Dominion of India right now. Oh, yeah, and the former British King in Canada is also a part of that. Not sure the United States are ever going to join that. That will be interesting. And then lastly, we do have the International, which is led by the Syndicalists in France and South Italy. I expect the Union of Britain will probably join that eventually as well. We'll see what happens with the Civil War in Spain, the Civil War in the United States. That will kind of determine the course of the game. The Ottoman Empire still exists, by the way, though I don't expect they will last for too long, but we'll see. So in the German Empire, as I kind of highlighted before, there are political parties, not simple ideologies. Right now, we are led by the DKP, which are authoritarian Democrats. Authoritarian democracy is an ideology that combines a strong executive power with a representative parliament and a partial democratic political system. They often take a conservative stance on social issues, promote liberal capitalist economics with limited state intervention. Alright, sounds pretty nice. Their primary aim is to maintain national stability and provide a popular and responsible government. Whether they succeed is kind of a different point. But there will be elections. We will see popularity of these parties shift around, and that's actually really important because that will change a couple of things. One, we have popularity. Popularity is a mechanic based on whichever political party is in charge. The more popular they are, the more political power you will gain. If you have a very unpopular party gain a coalition and take over your country, you're going to find that you get very little political power. Political power is incredibly important in the Kaiserreich mod pack because that affects your stability, a new mechanic added in the mod pack. So right now, we have barely positive political power, and that means we are going to be at average stability. But if this ever falls into the negative, and it almost certainly will very quickly as the German Empire, we could go to low stability, which ruins my factory output and requires more consumer goods, ruins my national unity, very low stability, disaster, and so on. It just gets worse and worse the lower your political power is, and you'll have to spend a lot of it in this mod pack. But if we can get it up into the positive and willing to spend the power, we could have good stability, very good stability, and so on, which gives me some pretty nice benefits. The problem is, if we ever go into the negative, all of this goes away, and that costs a lot of political power to do that. So that would hurt quite a bit. We always want to be in the positive if we can, but as the German Empire, we're not going to have a choice in just a little bit. Ministers are kind of decided for you a little bit based on which governmental party is decided. You can replace some of them, and you can see here that there's a bunch of different ministers added into the game based on their party membership. And I will not be able to switch to different ministers who are of the wrong party. I cannot have, for example, a social conservative. I need to have an authoritarian Democrat, and these are the options currently available to me. Some of them are good, and some of them are actually kind of sucky. So you may want to actually consider replacing some of those if you get a chance. All right, national focuses. Everything has been shifted. Every single thing is different in this, and there's a lot of options to go around. Holy crud, as the German Empire. So we have imperial restructuring, which will lead to a lot of the political situations in Germany. Democracy in Prussia. We can ban French organizations and syndicalists and so on. Women's suffrage is also a thing in this game, and try to move toward a sort of constitutional monarchy. That could be an option for us. We also will have the aftermath of Black Monday, which we haven't experienced yet, but we're about to, because at the very beginning of the Kaiserreich mod, we have Black Monday, the day that the stock markets crash and the economic situation of the world kind of falls apart and begins the Great Depression. We try to navigate through that the best that we can. There's a few different things as far as some research, as far as factory and development of the economy, our military development, the naval situation, and then even down here is a whole bunch of new stuff as well. So helping Austria and stuff like that, a lot of different diplomacy around our neighbors. That could be pretty fun. Romania is going to go through some political upheaval, and that's going to cut off our primary source of oil. We can try to force Romania to give it back to us. We can try to look to other nations to give us some oil. We could go out, try to have relations with Venezuela. Lots of different stuff. You can see here just the scope of the Kaiserreich mod pack, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to play as the German Empire, because, oh my god, there's a lot going on. Now, I happen to know from my test games that once Black Monday hits, we are going to lose stability very rapidly as the Germans, and I want to get that back. So I'm going to focus primarily on trying to get as much political power as quickly as possible. For that, we could go for imperial restructuring. It would take 35 days, costing me 1 political power per day. So it would cost me 35, but I would gain 50. So it's a net gain for me, and that could lead to a lot of different things. Easter promises, which will give us extra political power. Organize the youth in order to get manpower and also get rid of the quenched militarism event, which basically will get me a lot more manpower. So we will need this, absolutely, at some point. Institute the... Oh, I'm not going to be able to pronounce a thing from this. Verdekt Reichspoletzi? I don't speak German, so this is all going to be terrible. Lots of extra political power there. Yeah, lots of cool stuff that you can do, and some of these are dependent on which political power is in charge. Party, I should say. So, for example, if the authoritarian Democrats are not in charge, we won't be able to do this, which would lose out on the factory output plus 5%, which is really strong. So we may want to consider rushing to a Christian trade union while this political party is in charge, rather than wait for it and then lose out on the opportunity. Lots and lots of cool stuff added in this game. It is so well done. So as far as our national focus, let's go ahead and start with imperial restructuring. I want to get as much political power as is possible. As far as research, it's pretty much exactly the same as you've seen before. I don't think there's really anything different here. Support companies are all the same infantry equipment. The tanks have been kind of renamed a little bit based on what makes sense. We could go for the Ocelot as our light tank and stuff like that. Instead of Panzers, that doesn't exist, but some of it still does. Tigers and Leopard tanks. We'll see. Artillery is the same. Doctrines we know we are going to want to get started on as quickly as possible as Germany, because we have a huge penalty. So let's go ahead and get started with mobile warfare. Makes sense. As the Germans, we will use tanks. Naval doctrines and stuff, no changes there. We need to go for mechanical computing, as I usually do. Go to industry, we will grab the basic machining tools and construction. Alright, that all is basically the same thing that you've already seen. The construction and mechanics of the factories are all exactly the same too, so there's really no changes there. We right now have a pretty reasonable number of civilian factories. I think we can go ahead and build some military factories. And Germany starts off with pretty good infrastructure at the beginning of the game. They're not half bad. Westfalen, West Rhineland and stuff like that. We'll just build a few of those, see how we feel about it. New military factories. Let's go ahead and get started on some infantry equipment, support equipment, motorized. We'll get started on the towed artillery, maybe even some towed anti-air. Is that actually a priority for me? Not really. There are more important things, I imagine, though this could be alright. Alright, let's go ahead and at least put one factory just to start building up efficiency. At some point, we'll want to use that. Let's get started on some light tank variants. Could go for the heavies, but I think light will be better with mobile warfare at the beginning of the game. Aircraft, I'll start building some fighters. Dockyards, let's get some convoys going, some destroyers, heavy cruisers, and let's say battleships. Maybe also some subs. Those all seem okay. So let's stockpile up some convoys, go for at least a little bit of all of these. Extra battleships would be nice, extra subs, extra destroyers could be good. And maybe more convoys. Okay, this all seems reasonable to me. We'll want plenty of infantry equipment, a little bit of support equipment, motorized, towed artillery, tanks, and maybe a couple of fighters would be good. I think we'll get a little bit of extra infantry equipment going, to be honest, because I probably will want to drill my armies to get army experience, because there's not really any good way to get army experience, since it's very difficult to control your cabinet and actually get a minister who gets you that free military experience to change your templates around. So we'll probably want to drill things if we can. Let's go to the trade map mode. We're going to go to oil. Let's see. Where's Romania on here? Should be on here, right? Oh, wait, I'm not looking at oil. That's why. Okay. Yeah, the Iron Guard Romania. We have a trade deal with them, so let's go ahead and do that. That makes some sense. Actually, I'll just switch that down to being 2. There we go. All right. Unassigned divisions. Right. We do need to get this started. Ooh, this is going to be a little bit tough. Let's see. So we control all this. Borders with Russia will be very important depending on what events they follow, but I'll show you some of that in a little bit. Commune of France, something we always want to be defending against. So for now, let's just go ahead and grab all my troops and assign them here. We'll split them around later. Create a new front line against the French, and I will split them in half and put them here, and create a new front line against the Russians, like so. And it all seems pretty good. As far as commanders, field marshals are necessary. We have quite a few with awesome hats, I might add. Let's see. Max entrenchment and combat width is meh. Max entrenchment plus 30%. Really good against the French. We'll use that. Against the Russians, I guess we might as well use you. Alright, that seems pretty good. We still have a lot of unassigned divisions as well, and this is primarily across our colonial holdings. So we have these guys here who are garrison divisions currently, which if we look down here, I think... Yeah, so we start off with a special garrison division, which uses the garrison infantry type or something. I have no idea what's really different about these guys. We might be able to check that. I mean... Defense, breakthrough, let's just do a quick comparison of this between this and basic infantry. So, 22-3 suppression HP. Okay, so the garrisons have more HP and suppression, but weaker breakthrough, basically. It looks like that's basically it, though. Just not as good at combat, but pretty darn good at just sitting back and holding an area, which is... good in some cases, I think. Anyway, we'll just go ahead and leave that alone as it is. Let's go ahead and take you guys, and we'll add you into your own special garrison unit across my colonial stuff. Let's see, we have some here in Cairo. We have some here in Morocco. Some here. Something here. And all of this to all of that. I don't want to have to deal with these guys. It's going to be a little annoying. We have some Marines over here as well. We're definitely going to want to protect our colonial holdings as much as we can, because there's a lot of valuable resources. We even own some land here in China, which has the Qing Empire still, by the way. Or is that Qing? I can't remember. Is Q kind of pronounced a ch in Mandarin? I don't remember. Anyway, let's go ahead and take these guys. We will assign a general. Someone basic. Doesn't really matter to me. I will have you. You look awesome. And we will garrison these areas. Make sure we just hold them. Crete we don't actually need, because we're going to get rid of it at some point, but oh well. Alright, let's see. Do I want a garrison here in Morocco? I guess I might as well. Madagascar is going to need to have a garrison. You need a garrison. Sri Lanka, bit over here somewhere? Do we have troops? Apparently not. Alright, here. Doopadoo. This is kind of the boring setup part of the game, I'm afraid, but oh well, what can you do? Let's see. Here will be fine. Is there anything else that I own that I need to be aware of? What's this, by the way, here? The Australasian Confederation. That's interesting. Okay. Think we control pretty much everything here. Do we own Bermuda? No, the Caribbean Federation is its own thing. Well, that's fun. All right, I think we're more or less set up. Now, we have no manpower to start off, but let's go ahead and get started with the game. And as I said, there's going to be a lot of reading in this. It's going to be a little bit slower than you saw in the last one, but this is more of an experience than a strategy guide, so let's just have some fun, guys. The Constitution of the German Kaiserreich. After the crushing defeat of the Second French Empire by forces of Northern German Federation, our constitution was signed in 1871 by representatives of the North German Federation and of 4 Southern German states. This constitution put the Southern German states under the influence of the North German Federation, thus giving the enlarged entity a new identity as the Deutsches Reich. According to the constitution, the empire was a federation of 25 German states. The was held by the King of Prussia, who held the title of German Emperor. The Emperor appointed the Chancellor, the head of the German government, and chairman of the Bundesrat, the Council of Representatives of German States. Laws were enacted by the Bundesrat and the Reichstag, the imperial diet elected of male Germans above the age of 25 years, because we haven't had women's suffrage yet, so it's all male-led. However, it is the Emperor and not the Bundesrat or the Reichstag who leads the power of the German Empire. With an option to dissolve the Reichstag on a whim, it is clear that the main political power in the German Empire rests not in the Reichstag, elected by the people, but in the hands of the non-elected German Emperor. Another issue is the Prussian three-class voting system, which has remained unchanged since 1849. Over 60 years after the forming of the Kaiserreich, the liberals and social democrats are growing increasingly disgruntled with this status of things, and our constitution may see large revisions in the next few years. But a constitution guarantees stability, at least. Yeah, you say that, wait until there's a massive economic upheaval. It's not going to be that simple, I am afraid. Alright, let's go ahead and move forward on speed 5, I guess. Not a lot is going to happen at the very beginning of the game, but things are going to take a downturn pretty quick. The assassination of President Kerensky. Kerensky has been shot and killed while on the way home to the Senate. Not home, sorry. The assailant was taken down by the police, but the goals of the intentions of the attacker are unknown. This is the assassination of the Russian president, and out of this, we are going to see some pretty big political changes, and it really, I have no idea what direction it's going to go. We may see national populists take command, we may see move towards communism, we have no idea. It's going to be pretty interesting. So yeah, basically I think that's like the assassination of Kennedy, really, is kind of what we're trying to reenact here, but it's in Russia, not the United States. Anyway, start off we have 90% national unity. That is pretty good. Wish we had a bit more of that, though. Not going to get more oil, don't need that. We do have, I think, an export focus at the beginning of the game, so a lot of our resources are going to market, but not a lot of people seem to be taking advantage of that. We're exporting mostly rubber, which is one of the reasons I really, really want to hold on to my colonial nations if I can. Edward VIII has been crowned as the King of Britain, or rather the Dominion of Canada because they don't own Britain anymore. King George V, the last king of Great Britain and Ireland to have ruled the home isles themselves, has passed while in exile in Canada. The first Windsor king, his reign shall be remembered with sorrow and sadness, as during it Britain lost both the Weltkrieg and its homeland. The crown was inherited by Edward, Prince of Wales, who now stylizes himself as Edward VIII. King Edward is a vengeful and ambitious man, and not on good terms with Prime Minister Mackenzie King, here of, Mackenzie King's of, is the leader of the market liberals in Canada, I think. He lives on the goal of avenging his father and reconquering the British Isles, and thus is quite popular among the British exiles in Canada, among others. Pretty cool. Alright, new king, wants to take over Britain, makes sense to me. Maybe I can even help him with that, I'm not sure. Mostly our enemy is going to be France, though. France was buffed recently in some of the patches in Kaiserreich, so they're going to be a little bit harder to smash than you might think. It's not like World War II where you can just stomp them. Now, these guys are going to be tough, but we'll see. Payment of the Brest-Litovsk reparations. With stagnation of our economy and worsening conditions of our citizens during 1935, our government has decided that in order to restart our economy, we need additional cash, only available in an amass sufficient capital to help our economy, was to force the Russian state to prematurely repay the remaining reparations from the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. During the Berlin Conference in November 1935, President Alexander Kerensky, together with Prime Minister Pavel Milyukov, were forced to accept the premature payments, With drastic austerity measures, the Russian government was able to prematurely pay the remaining parts of its reparations. Well, that's good, and for at least a year, I have less consumer goods factories, which means more civilian construction projects for me. But I imagine that's going to make things a little bit more unstable for the Russians. So that's going to suck pretty bad. Alright, moving forward. Black Monday has begun! This is what's really going to start screwing over our nation. On the 3rd of February 1936, the Berlin Stock Exchange stopped sinking, it plunged. Fueled by the instability of the market panic, selling erupted as soon as the stock market opened on Monday morning. It took well into the night for the teleprinters to stop sputtering out the results of what became known as Black Monday. When the results had been analyzed, it was clear that the situation had only gotten worse. Or just got worse. Grammar. The shock of this unprecedented economic catastrophe will no doubt be felt over the entire world. The German Golden Age has ended. For now, at least. Mein Gott. Alright. National Spirit Black Monday. Unity goes down by 25%, production efficiency cap goes down by 20%, the factory output goes down by 50%, construction speed by 50%, and resources to market minus 40%. And we lose 200 political power, which will plunge us into the negative and cause low stability. Oh my yow, that's going to be a problem. Alright. Run on the banks. German citizens, panicked by the collapse of the Berlin stock market, are rushing to make bank runs to withdraw their assets. The banks cannot afford to give out sums, and many are in danger of collapse. Many are clamoring for immediate government intervention to stabilize this unprecedented financial crisis. We could close them temporarily, which loses even more political power, but immediately Black Week comes to an end. We could guarantee the holdings of private individuals at least, maybe not public ones, but private, which would have consumer good factories go up by 8%, so we get less civilian factories for 50 days, but we don't lose quite as much political power, which could be sort of good. Or we could do nothing, which just seems like a terrible option because we lose 240 political power. Yeesh. I think I'm going to go ahead and guarantee the holdings of private individuals at least. That's going to lose some civilian factories, but at least we can get our political situation back under control a little bit faster. Now, we could sit back and not do anything with our national focus, and we would gain almost 2 political power per day. But, as we saw earlier, it still is going to be pretty good for us to go for something like this. 70 days costs me 1 political power per day in order to get another 120. So yeah, that will help us get more political power in a short time frame. I think we're going to go ahead and institute the Verdacht Reichspolizei, or however you say that. I don't know. The syndicalist terror is nearly as bad again as it was in 1928, when Karl von Halfreich, president of the Reichsbank, was shot by a lone gunman. So that's a little bit different there. We're going to crack down on the syndicalists. Yeah, that's going to be fun. The Emirate of Afghanistan has declared war on the Dominion of India. And we have the FAUD, F-A-U-D, the Free Arbitrary Union Deutschlandes, the Free Workers Union, basically, of Germany, is a roof organization of several trade unions founded in 1927. They have denounced the syndicalist underground terror repeatedly, and therefore been allowed to operate until now. But the Verdacht Reichspolizei has produced definite proof that their leaders are in contact with syndicalist organizations in other nations, such as the CNTFAI in Spain. We also suspect they may be plotting against the Kaiser. We can jail the leaders and ban the party, so the German bans the FAUD, which is necessary, by the way, if we want to go for the Christian Trade Union, or we can embrace them instead, allowing them to operate, and that will start moving us more toward a syndicalist nation, I think. We are going to be banning them. That loses even more political power, I'm afraid, and the French are not going to be happy about that, but we are not going to start moving in the direction of communism, by God. Sorelians elected in France, syndicalist nation, second commune. They basically have formed a coalition of some sort, I think. Orthodox syndicalists have taken control in France. I think you can actually get very different events based on that, but they are totalists, a different version of syndicalism. A category sometimes given with the name various radical left-wing ideologies, blah, 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 blah. It looks like it's basically them going straight up authoritarian communism, basically. Which makes sense. They are the commune of France. But yeah, Not a friend to us, that is for certain. But I'm going to have to end this video here. I know it seems like we didn't accomplish much, because we didn't. But there's going to be a lot of reading, a lot of custom stuff going on in this mod pack, and I think this is a pretty good introduction. If you guys are excited about this, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment showing your support so I know to keep going on this. I actually would like to see us do more Kaiserreich content in the future, playing maybe as the United States' Second Civil War, or as Russia, or Brazil, or something. Maybe as France, I'm not sure yet. A lot of things I'd like to do, but it's going to depend very heavily on you guys. So if you are enjoying this, make sure you let me know. Thank you all very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.